Hello, everyone. My name is Jackson Spivey. I'm an intern at the National Sports Media Association. I'm joined by the 2025 winner in the state of West Virginia in sportscasting, Travis Jones. Thanks so much for joining me, Mr. Jones.
Thanks, Jackson. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Well, I want to jump in hearing what was your reaction when you heard that you won your first ever award in the state of West Virginia in sportscasting?
Yeah, I was really excited. I was familiar with these awards. I'd been nominated a couple of years before, and actually, a couple of guys in my company. A couple of my coworkers and cohorts had won the award before. And I knew that just from their experience at the banquet and that entire weekend, how nice of an event it was. So I was really excited to be a part of it, and a guy that also works in my company won the state sports writer of the year award as well. So I'm really excited to celebrate that evening with him. Coming up in June down in North Carolina. So yeah, just really thrilled and honored to add my name to a very impressive list from our state.
Yes, awesome, awesome. Well, let's talk about a little bit about what you've done. I'll ask you, where did it all start for you as a sportscaster?
Yeah, so it's actually I've kind of got a unique story. I started more on the music side of things.
Interesting.
When I was about 7 years old, the first FM radio station in my town went in to our mall, and the studio was located behind plate glass, down a corridor of the mall, and you could go and watch the disc jockeys, back then play records. So I kind of got enamored with radio. And wanting to be a disc jockey and be on the music end of it. So, really, I didn't. I was a disc jockey from the time I was 15 until 18 before I did my first sportscast. Stayed in, the music end of it and kind of mixed it in with the sports end of it,
Hmm.
and was just very fortunate to be in, the same company for a lot of my career, and not have to bounce around. I've stayed pretty much in the state borders outside of one. Opportunity I had to work in Ohio for a while, but just kind of mixing my love of sports. I've always been a big football and basketball fan. So, growing up, uh, I honestly called games, when I was 10, 11 years old, practiced on a tape recorder, just
Hmm.
watching NBA games and calling them, not worrying about the names, calling everybody by the same last name, but
Yeah,
just kind of more trying to get the flow of it and learn, positions on the floor and what that's called. So, I've been very fortunate. Had an opportunity. I worked at West Virginia University for 12 years on the Mountaineer Sports Network, and 1993 got in with a high school where I'm a member of the community and live there. And my son graduated from there, so I've done Bridgeport High School's games since 1993. And when the WVU opportunity came to a close, I was fortunate enough to find a Division II play-by-play job at Fairmont State University. So I've been there, ever since, going into my 12th season there. So, just as Jackson, anytime you have an opportunity to call games and it's your passion, you want to do it no matter what level it's at.
absolutely. Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah. So, I know you've talking about Bridgeport High School
Mhm.
and Fairmont State. Have you also done a little bit at Metro News? Is that correct?
Yeah, so I'm the vice president of Metro News. So basically, we are the statewide news network, but we also have the contracts for all the West Virginia high school championship events. So we do softball, baseball, football, boys and girls basketball. Basically, boys basketball is our premier event. We have 32 affiliates that sign up for the tournament. So I've got a crew of about 7 guys that we rotate play by play, and then a handful of color guys. So yeah, we do that. We've also got long form high school programming as well. We have a statewide nightly talk show that we do called the statewide sports line that emanates from our Charleston and Morgantown studios as well. So been very fortunate to be a part of Metro News. It launched in 1986, and I've been with Metro News in some form or fashion since 1992. So,
Wow.
been with the network for for a very long time. And I've been very blessed also to have an opportunity because of my connections that I've made to also do some national bowl games as well on Sirius XM with First Team Radio. Usually do 3 bowl games a season, and that's been a fun experience. I've done that about 10 years.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, it's a
Yep.
cool gig as well, calling some bowl games.
Yeah.
Well, across your careers at Metro News, these bowl games even, and at Fairmont State and Bridgeport, so I want to ask you, what are some of your most memorable calls that you've had over the years?
Yeah, so a couple of things come to mind. I think anytime you call state championships, those are special, and we've had some very memorable
Hmm.
state championships. One of the greatest teams I ever had the opportunity to call was O.J. Mayo and Patrick Patterson played on the same high school team at Huntington High School. And while the games weren't competitive, they the dunks certainly were. So yeah, being able to watch some great athletes and a couple of years ago, for about a 6 or 7 year period, there was an all-star tournament that was put on in Wheeling, West Virginia, that we had the broadcast rights to, and it was like national teams. Lala Muir came through there. Also, Christian Brothers would come through there. So had the opportunity to see. Um, just some great, now NBA superstars
Yeah.
that came through there. Chris Paul played in that tournament and put on I think he scored 52 points in a game that we saw.
Sounds right.
So, yeah, there's just been, through my time there, some great opportunities, even working at WVU, I've had opportunities to call games at Madison Square Garden. I've had opportunities to call games in Hawaii and the U.S. Virgin Islands. So it's been uh, due to sports and basketball. I've been able to travel and see a lot of places that typically you wouldn't be able to without
Ah,
that.
yeah, that's awesome. Yeah.
Yep.
And as we wrap up, I want to ask you, what is some advice you would give to your younger self, or maybe a person like myself or another young person trying to break into the field of broadcasting?
Yeah, and the thing is that I think everybody, my first advice, and I've given this advice to young sportscasters often, and that is, just kind of find your niche. I've always encouraged, especially in this day and age, as we look at, how sports has evolved, and there's a lot of different lanes that you can get yourself into, and
Mhm.
there's a lot of crowded lanes. Everybody wants to do football, everybody wants to do basketball, and everybody wants to do baseball. If you can learn soccer, if you can learn lacrosse, if you can learn esports, if you can learn volleyball, there are a lot of specialty type sports that the field is a lot less crowded. But at the end of the day, for me, and as I look back, and I'm in my mid 50s now, so I'm seeing the end of my career, closer than than it has been. It's certainly closer than it was further in the start of my career if I look backwards. Um, it's okay not to, chase the big job. I've always been content, being in a high school or a Division II setting where I feel like I can really get to know the kids and the student athletes and develop lifelong relationships with them. I mean,
Mhm.
heck, I go back to when I did Salem. I'm still very good friends with some of those guys were playing basketball and they were 21 years old, and I was 24 at the time calling their games. And it's just been, the relationships are always special, and I've always just liked that ability to be at a smaller place, to be a part of the community, be a part of the program, and really feel like you have personal relationships with them and their family,
Absolutely.
and you do sense that appreciation that the family has. Jackson, of course, everything's video today. I'm an old school radio guy, and although I've done television, I always love radio and the theater of the mind, and fans relying on you to describe what you're seeing. There's something very special about that, and I think the greatest compliment you can have as a radio broadcaster is when somebody comes up to you and says, "Hey, I watched the game, but I listened to you." That always makes you feel good. there's that loyalty, and they appreciate your style of calling the games.
100%. I couldn't agree more with that piece of advice. I really do agree with that. Well, thank you so much for joining us. And again, congratulations on winning the state award in West Virginia.
Thanks, Jackson. Thanks
Thank
for having
you.
me.